Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, dear devotees, Dandatam, welcome to Nityam Bhagavad Sevaya. After a very long gap, very happy to share that we are again starting Prabhupada Lilamritha. Actually, I was checking the PPT. The last time also, when we stopped, it was Gaurachandra Gopinath Prabhu who spoke on chapter 42nd. So he'll be continuing. We are very happy to have his association this time from the spiritual capital of the world. So he'll be sharing Lilamrita from chapter 43. Hare Krishna Prabhuji, please continue.
Prabhu, am I audible? My voice is clear?
Yes, it's clear.
Prabhu, after some time I'll be logging in from another device. You need to give permission because all my PPT is in another one. Okay. I'll just doing prayers, then I will join in another one. Please give the admin rights as well to that.
Sure.
Om Ajnanathmirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamadyam Tadati Swapatantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Yuda Padakamalam Sri Gurun Vaishnavam Cha Shri Rupam Sagrajadam Sagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sagitam Krishna Chaitanya Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitam Cha Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimade Bhakti Vedanta Swami Dinamine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashyatya Deshadarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shivashadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ramo Rama Ramo Hare Hare. Just give me a second, I will be switching over.
Okay,
Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, there's some echo. I just muted all and unmuted. Yes, speak again, Prabhuji.
Is it better now?
Yes, Prabhuji. Yes, good. It's good.
Okay. And you are able to see my presentation.
Yes,
So
Prabhu, we
are
are
you
able
able to
to.
see my
Yeah, we are
presentation?
able to see your presentation. Yes.
So this is, thank you very much for giving this opportunity. I was talking about Prabhupada is simply purifying. And this title, entitled today, is the beginning of Temple Krishna Balarama Mandir. So there were three main projects Prabhupada was doing simultaneously. One is first project started with Bombay and Mayapur. The third one is Krishna Balarama Mandir. Why we know that there is a case all issue happened, and Mayapur is a long-term project because Prabhupada gave a lot of time to develop it. But Krishna Balaram Mandir is something Prabhupada wanted to construct quickly, and he was literally in a hurry. We will see two, three reasons why he did that. So,
Excuse,
and the
excuse me,
importance of
excuse me,
yeah,
Guruji. Hare Krishna.
yeah,
Guruji, I think
yeah,
maybe is this a Bluetooth headset? I think there is some disturbance in the connection. Earlier, when you were doing the prayers, it was good, and the video is
is
also
it any better, Prabhu?
yeah better. Yeah, let's see, Prabhu. I think there's some slight disturbance, like static noise coming through.
Prabhu, is it any better?
Yeah, better now, Prabhu. And also video is freezing. Maybe if you see some
Hare
bandwidth
Krishna.
issues. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, the audio is good. The video is freezing
Ah.
from time to time. If you see any bandwidth issues, maybe later on you can switch off the video. But for now, please
Yeah, Prabhu,
continue.
is it okay if I switch off the video? Is it
Yeah,
okay if
yeah,
I switch off the video?
yeah. I think so. Yeah, you can find. You have the PPT anyway, so please.
Yeah. So, as I mentioned, this Vrindavan is something which we want to see, right? What kind of challenges Prabhupada faced and the activities. This is a big chapter, so I divided into two. So, in this chapter, Prabhupada is covering, Prabhupada is in Vrindavan and he is traveling to Mayapur, then again to Vrindavan. So we will be covering a little bit portion of what happened in Vrindavan and little bit portion of what happening in Mayapur. Then the second part we can do it in the coming chapters. You can see there are left hand side there are two pictures I have put. One is this Surabhi Puram left hand side. Another that's Gurudas Maharaj. So So these are two key people who involved in the
Hare Krishna,
Vrindavan
Prabhuji.
project.
Sorry to interrupt you again. Actually, the voice is cracking.
Uh,
Or if you want, if you can forward the PPT to me, I can share the PPT and maybe you can join from the other device through voice, if it's okay with you.
One second, bro. Bro, I'll change the network. Hare Krishna.
Yes, Guruji. Hare Krishna.
I have changed the network, bro.
Okay, okay. Let's see. Let's see. Maybe a few seconds.
Uh,
Continue, Prabhuji.
so these two people are key people who are involved in this construction. Surabhi Prabhu comes from the background of architecture. So Prabhupada initially gave this Bombay Center. The Bombay Center he designed it. So and Prabhupada was like Gurudas is another person who was the temple president that time in Vrindavan. He has been entrusted with to complete the project, but somehow for various reason it was prolonging for a long time. Design is not coming. Then Prabhupada called Surabhi Prabhu and he gave him the responsibility of designing it. And also Prabhupada liked the Govindaji temple in Vrindavan, so he wanted that architecture like the open courtyard when there are many arches leading up to the altar, Like that, Prabhupada wanted it a design. So he also gave the ideas to Surabhi Prabhu. Then he made the design and he approved it. Then he told everyone that they should follow this design. And Prabhupada, the vision is completely different for Vrindavan because he knew that this will be a capital city of spiritual where people will be coming from various parts of the country and they can realize it what is Vrindavan like. Uh, uh, See, he want a very grand temple to be built in Vrindavan, so that any people who come from abroad, his own disciples, also people around in and around Delhi, they can come and experience what is like Vrindavan like. And then he was telling that if you don't complete this project very well, this will be a discredit to American boys. So he was requesting them to take utmost care to complete this project. So also Prabhupada is always constant touch with Gurudas because he didn't stay here. This has happened in April 1972. Prabhupada will come once in a while, visit, then he would try manage everything through correspondence and Prabhupada would travel. So he was writing to Gurudas saying that no, there are a couple of things, even though Gurudas is communicating with Prabhupada, there are a couple of things he kind of given a backseat. That is digging a well, getting the plan approved. This all painstakingly taking a lot of time. And Prabhupada said, any engineer would write a drawing and he would get pass it on within 6 months' time. Why you are taking so much time? Even after 6 months, continuous. Just give me a second. With continuous follow-up, still this is not done. And Prabhupada was again requesting Gurudas to progress. So there is a second point is that why Prabhupada named this Krishna Balaram temple. That is very interesting. See, these acharyas can have the vision and they can see through what's happening. So generally, Prabhupada established Radha Krishna temple and Vrindavan around everywhere Radha Krishna temple. But Prabhupada said this will be a Krishna Balaram Mandir. Why? There are three reasons Satswarup Goswami Maharaj explains. One is that this place is Ramandreti. The Vrindavan temple where it is located is Ramandreti. That's where Krishna Balaram is to play with the cowherd boys. The highest perfection of the love in Vrindavan is that this Madhya Rasa as well as the cowherd boys what they had with Krishna. So he want to establish all over the world that Krishna Balaram Mandir should be here because this is the pastime place. The second thing is that it will be unique in Vrindavan because all other temples have Radha Krishna temple, but he want to call this as Krishna Balaram temple so that it is unique, different from the other temples. The third reason, Prabhupada says that Balaram is the Sankarshana, Adi Sankarshana, and who holds this entire world on his head. So we want to have a spiritual strength, then we should pray to Krishna Balaram. So anybody has any deficiency or anything lacking in spiritual life, then they should pray to Balaramji. So Prabhupada thought like that, and he chose this specific style also. Balaram is putting his hand on Krishna, and this is the same picture, same vision Prabhupada had, and he wanted exactly these deities like that. I think this was somewhere painted on one of the magazines, and Prabhupada saw that and he said this Krishna Balaram should be like this. So these are the Prabhupada vision for this temple to come up, and these are the reasons he gave. So, and Prabhupada vision for Vrindavan is that he's already started getting a request from tourism department saying, can we include ISKCON guest house or ISKCON temple as one of the official place to visit? And Prabhupada wanted like that. We have a nice guest house so that all the people come and stay here, have nice prasadam. In fact, he said you should have a European preaching center. What is that? You invite all the hippies, make a tourism place, let them come and stay here. They can clean up, they do some seva in the temple, have nice prasadam, that they can cultivate Krishna consciousness. That's what he was planning for it. And also, any temple Prabhupada established that time, it has three altars. So now Krishna Balaram is in the center. what are the two other altars? So then he said there should be a Krishna Gaurachandra, because Nitha is not different from Balram, but still is a Kripa avatar. So one should know how we are merciful, the mood of mercy. Devotees also should go and preach. The mood of Kripa should be there. Then he said there needs to be Gaurachandra. Then he said, right hand side, there can be a Radha Sham Sundar and Lalita Visakha Sakhi. That is the idea Prabhupada told. These are the details he wanted it. And Prabhupada was very annoyed because these Westerners, Gurudas and other people, they are not very well comfortable in India. People used to cheat, but they think that they got a best bargain, but actually they are getting cheated. They will take the money, they'll invest in some other temple project. The contractor somehow they take the money, whatever marked for our Krishna Balaram temple. So they would use call Daman Cheap Babu. This is the name given to Indians, to the foreigners who think that they got a best bargain, but they are getting cheated. Prabhupada used to call Gurudas like that. And Prabhupada, he thought that these guys are not able to manage the financial, and he made a strict protocol. Wherever he would travel, all the checks needs to be approved by Prabhupada. So what happens is, Prabhupada, if Gurudas has to make any expenses, he has to call the temple president in Delhi, Tejas Prabhu. Then he would create a check or write to check, create a check and details. He'll check everything. Then he will send to Prabhupada wherever he was traveling. Prabhupada, wherever he was traveling, he will receive the check, he will sign it and send it back to Delhi. From Delhi again, Tejas Prabhu write counter sign, then he will give it to Gurudas Prabhu and Gurudas has to spend. You see the process is so slow in doing this process, but Prabhupada wanted it to be opened by Janmashtami 1973. It is just approximately 8 to 9 months time. Prabhupada was asking for this. Prabhupada stayed till 1972 Kartik month, then Prabhupada started traveling to various other places. So this kind of strict financial transaction Prabhupada established, and there is not much money also coming in. And he wrote to His Holiness Tamal Krishna Maharaj saying that only 5,000 rupees has been sent this year. How do the progress will go? So he has requested many money to come. And Prabhupada was telling Gurudas that, please, when is that you can open? And Gurudas was very optimistic, saying that we can open in Janmashtami in 1973. But people in general on the ground, we know that there is nothing happening, progressing. So I'll just read out on the left-hand side. It's very, it describes what is the mood and the scenario of Vrindavan. But anyone visiting the construction site in Vrindavan could understand that the building would never be finished in time. But Prabhupada was, Gurudas was committing that Janmashtami in 1973, within 6 to 8 months' time, the temple will be open. The temple area consisted of foundation lines and steel rods. Only 3 or 4 devotees were living there, struggling to organize labors and to obtain funds and building materials. That summer was extremely hot, and each day the devotees were forced to spend the afternoon lying on the huts, exhausted from the heat. Prices for cement and steel had doubled. Yet Prabhupada continued to respond Gurudas' glowing reports, encouraging him to continue with determination. This is Srila Prabhupada. It's not that Prabhupada doesn't know Gurudas was overcommitting and it will not be done, but still he was encouraging, motivating. As Acharya, there might be a lot of fault in one leader. Prabhupada never removed them. Prabhupada tried to educate them. When he came personally, he would train them how to keep the accounts, how to audit the things. He personally audited. So this is a Acharya, one who takes everyone along with them. There might be some skill deficiency with the person, but he sees the sincerity of the person. In fact, this Gurudas was later awarded a sannyasa, and Prabhupada said he's very sincere. And his wife Yamuna is also is a kind of sannyasini, so I want to give him sannyas. It's very nice, very sincere, like that. So Prabhupada sees the commitment and the real love for Prabhupada, what they're trying to do. But he was patient even though things were not moving. Then Prabhupada said, okay, at least this is a deal. At least you complete my quarters, I will come and stay. If the temple is not ready, at least by next Janmashtami, 73, October sometime, I want to visit and you make it do that. And it was 1974 February, Prabhupada wrote, saying that I'm coming, please take my quarters ready. Then Guru Das immediately considered Ravi Prabhu. How many days? He said maximum at least it will take a month, 4 weeks to construct. Then Guru Das wrote back to Prabhupada saying we can do it in 3 weeks time. He was very optimistic. Then Prabhupada wrote back saying that I am coming in 2 weeks, get it ready. And people were in such an anxiety. So people should take anxiety for Krishna consciousness. That's what Prabhupada said. Initially, he wanted to buy temple. It was very expensive. Then later, Prabhupada said we can have anxiety. So people started constructing day and night. They made 2 shifts, 24/7. The construction was going on for Prabhupada room, and Prabhupada just arrived in time. Where the just roofing and side walls were done, the flooring still it's very cold and damp, and it is not done. They try to cover up, and they try to make it. And Prabhupada was really happy that he said this like this. If you can construct my room, the temple also will be constructed. Then devotee said, Prabhupada, it's very cold, and Prabhupada also trying to get sick. Then he said, why don't you move to different place? Prabhupada said, this is my first house. Now I am going to stay here. No, I don't want to stay anywhere here. And Prabhupada was staying there in this quarter, 1974 February. He used to conduct a lot of programs. They erected small pandal on the site, and they invited few peoples around Vrindavan, and they had held kirtan and things like that. So it was motivating for devotees to see how Prabhupada was staying in a simple place, which is even not completely ready. And even though he's sick, he's agreed to stay here. Prabhupada was determined in his desire. He wanted a temple as much as ever, and the small band of disciples in Vrindavan were convinced of their mission to erect the temple. They knew that they were building a temple not merely as their own local project, but as something very important for the whole world. Prabhupada set again next target Janmashtami 1974. It was February, Prabhupada staying here. Then he said Janmashtami August 1974. We are doing a grand opening. So like that, Prabhupada instructed them. So this temple, every temple, Prabhupada is not a cakewalk. Prabhupada had a struggle, so much struggle, we can't even imagine how much struggle Prabhupada has to go through construct this temple. And I know Narari Prabhu is here, we know how difficult it is to construct a small center, but Prabhupada constructing such a big centers, and most of them had litigation. So Bombay already have a big litigation, and Vrindavan also similar fashion had a small litigation. May not be that size of Mayapur, the Vrindavan, but Bombay, and this also had a problem. So Guru Das wrote to Srila Prabhupada, there was one Mr. S who initially donated all these places, and agreement was still, deed was being processed, and the Prabhupada started constructing the temple. Then, after some time, this person he wrote back to Guru Das saying that the front of the temple, that's the main access to the temple, he said he will take 50 feet away. Then he wanted to put some petrol bunk or something. He want to use it for some other commercial purpose. So don't do anything. That's what he wrote. And he wrote back to Prabhupada. So again, Prabhupada was into anxiety. How do we get this? Because if the front access is taken away, the temple look, everything will go away. There will be no easy access to the temple. So how can he take it back? Because on the arrangement of Radharani's mercy, he agreed to give that. And he is now wanted to take it back, and Prabhupada was really worried about this. So what he did, he immediately told, construct a 12 feet high wall around securing the places immediately. Then he said, what happened to the deed? Gurudas said the deed is not signed, and he said you have to push and get this deed signed. People were thinking previously, why Prabhupada was so hurry construct the temple, why is pushing so much? Prabhupada knew that this kind of issues would come, people would cheat, and if he is not able to establish that prominent temple for ISKCON, then there will be never ISKCON in Vrindavan, that particular place. So Prabhupada knew all these things, that's why he was simply requesting the devotees to put full efforts. So people devotees are realizing now why Prabhupada knew that this kind of issues will come. Then what he did is, Srila Prabhupada wrote to him saying, Mr. S, this is according to Radharani's mercy, you have given it. Now you can't ask it back. Please come and settle down. We can discuss the chat. Then his secretary telegrammed it, but Mr. S was traveling. He said, "No, I want this property back, 50 feet in the front of the portion. The rest we can talk later." Then Prabhupada wrote to a friend in Calcutta. Then he told him, there are four brothers, this Mr. S had. So he talked to him and he asked him to convince them and give this property to Vrindavan. Then one day at 4 a.m., Prabhupada was in his quarters. He was translating Srimad Bhagavatam. Satsara Goswami Maharaj that time joined as a secretary. So Prabhupada called immediately at 4 o'clock. Satsura Maharaj always alert his servant what Prabhupada wanted to do it. Then at 4 a.m., Prabhupada called and he said, "Can you open the Krishna book and read the story of King Nirga story?" Then Satsura Goswami is thinking why Prabhupada is asking to read at this point of time. Then he started narrating the story how this king was donating cows. One Brahmana he donated 1 million cows, and another Brahmana he donated 1 million cows. But what happened? One cow from the first Brahmana, what he donated, the cow automatically came to the shed of the king. And nobody noticed it, and the same cow has been second time has been donated to another Brahmana. So the second Brahmana came to know, the first Brahmana came to know, then he came to the king. He said, "You have donated already this cow. Second time the same cow you donated to other Brahmana. How can you do that? Get me that cow." The second Brahmana argued, "No, once I taken the donation, I don't return it back. It is very offensive to whatever giving a charity. After you giving charity, asking back, it is very wrong." The king to said to the first Brahmana, "I'll give you another 1 million cow, but exclude that one cow." But first Brahmana said, "You've given me this cow, I wanted this cow back." And like this argument was going on, the king could not able to conclude. Finally, he has to take as a lizard. In Krishna book, we know this story that he taken in the well as a lizard. And when Krishna's sons were playing and they want to take out a ball, and Krishna comes and personally delivers. And Prabhupada want to tell Mr. S that Sastrically, see how Prabhupada handles this dispute, and we might in the offices or other places we go to the courses saying how to manage dispute. Prabhupada life history is really steady, and we learn from this, and we know how to handle these problems. Every problems has Prabhupada managed. Possible problems what we can face in the temple or in personal life. And Prabhupada always dealt with material problem with spiritual solutions. And Prabhupada taking quotation from Srimad Bhagavatam, especially Srimad Bhagavatam is the shelter for this Kali Yuga. Prabhupada taking this example apt story where you are given a donation and you are asking back. You see the result of the king. He has become a lizard, and why you also want to born like that. And he told Satsurup Maharaj to type this and send a letter to Mr. S saying that this is the story. This is the letter Prabhupada. The letter was to Mr. S, and Prabhupada referred to Mr. S's donation of the land and decided to take back the front 50 feet. He reminded Mr. that according to the original agreement, he had given the entire land with the sanction of Radharani. How could he that now is taking back? He should consider, and this story he attached it, typed it, and sent it. Look at the conflict resolution, how Prabhupada is handling the spiritual way. And the person who is reading it definitely know from the Sastric evidence what Prabhupada is talking about. So this kind of issues problem is still going on. Prabhupada was managing. Just give me a second. And meanwhile, the interesting what is happening is Satsarup Maharaj was guilty. While he was reading the story, he didn't know that it is for Mr. S. And when Prabhupada asked to read him, after reading it, he felt guilty because generally when Prabhupada used to receive a lot of gifts, and he also received a lot of pairs of socks. It is very cold in Vrindavan, so they get socks or dirty, so people use the socks. And Satsarup Maharaj was new, a secretary, and he didn't have any socks. Then he went and saw there is very inexpensive soft Prabhupada. Generally, Prabhupada doesn't use this. He will either give it to them as a donation or he give it to his disciples. So he thought that it is okay to take Prabhupada one of the inexpensive song what was given as a gift, and he started wearing it. And when he started narrating the story of this Nirga, then Satswarup Maj was relating to him, saying, "Oh, I have taken this. He was given as a gift to charity to Prabhupada. I mistakenly taken it," and he was feeling guilty. But later he realized it. That's one passage he narrates in this episode of that. Now the devotees were started asking, and Prabhupada started staying in his quarters, going for daily walk, and he would see the Vrindavan go around the morning walk. One day he was walking, the devotee was asking, Prabhupada, how can we understand the Vrindavan is Krishna's abode? There seems to be so much contamination in Vrindavan. So this episode, Prabhupada is explaining all of us how um, one person should see Vrindavan because your senses are impure, said Prabhupada. But when your eyes are smeared with slave of love, salve of love, then you can see Vrindavan. Don't judge Vrindavan by external appearance. Most of the time we go and see the dirty places, people around, then we say, what is this Vrindavan? We say Chintamani, then Kalpa Varikshas. So this Prabhupada's mood, and he was educating all his boys. And the Prabhupada was telling, we have to live certain example. Sanatana Goswami, the six Goswamis, how a pure devotee should live is mentioned in the Sat Goswami Astakam, Prabhupada said. And one should read this Sat Goswami Astakam. These six Goswamis were multi-billionaires, but they were living simply. But Vrindavan, there are many other Babajis, they simple cloth, but they used to cigarette smoking, and they don't follow, they look like a Babaji. So Prabhupada trying to educate all our disciples, don't become a Babaji like them. You should not be cheated. Even a sannyasi or a grihastha in ISKCON, in Vrindavan, should live very, very simple as the following footsteps of the six Goswamis. Give up everything and live a simple thing. And Prabhupada sometime would call his disciples and said, bring all the books of accounts I want audited. And this disciple, one of the other disciples said, Prabhupada, I have all the copy, Xerox copy. I don't have the original. Original is with Prabhu in Delhi, temple president. And Prabhupada said, I'm not a Srila Prabhupada here. I'm not your guru. I am an auditor. I want to audit. You don't give me excuses. Bring all the books of accounts. So like that, Prabhupada teach them how to keep the books of account. He personally would audit. And there was one Muslim person who was a contractor to this Krishna Balarama temple who was constructing it. He would request them, please construct, this is a Krishna Balarama temple. Lord Krishna will be pleased if you do a wonderful job. So Prabhupada used to call his disciple, he would have a meeting, again push. And Janmashtami 1974, new deadline was set up to see this temple. Now, this episode is stopping here, and then the book continues with the episode of Mayapur. March 17th for Prabhupada again. He said, I will come to Vrindavan during Janmashtami. Then Prabhupada started traveling to the Mayapur. So we will be seeing another 20 minutes of Mayapur episode. Then with that, I would stop. Then we will continue again Vrindavan episode and Mayapur episode later point of time next week. So when Prabhupada arrived from Calcutta, there is a between Calcutta to Mayapur, there was one nice mango grove we found, secluded place. He had prasad. His sister was there. Then after that, Prabhupada started traveling to Mayapur. So when Mayapur Prabhupada arrived, it is amazing that 400 devotees all over various parts of the world, they were started gathering from Srivas Angan itself, which is about 2 kilometers from our Mayapur temple. Then people started gathering from there itself, and when Prabhupada came, it was a full jam, and the devotees were in front of the car and trying to get darshan of the Prabhupada. Then he said, slow down the car, and it was a very, very snail facing movement, and throughout the street, and so many devotees offering Srila Prabhupada, and there is a beautiful flowers blossoming all the way through. Decorating Prabhupada was received in a grand manner in Mayapur. So that's the time this temple was, Mayapur temple was just finished the flooring, a nice marble flooring. The walls were painted. And let me read Prabhupada's vision. And he was so pleased. Why Prabhupada was pleased? Because this Bhaktivinoda Thakur had predicted that all the Westerners would come here and dance together. That prediction is coming true. That's why Prabhupada was so happy. Let me read this. This is very interesting. The temple room was completed. Its sparkling marble floor, freshly painted walls, and crystal chandeliers all have been radiated just a few days before. Radiate. After offering obeisances before the resplendent golden form of Radha Madhav on the altar, Prabhupada turned and walked to long temple hall to sit his Vyasasana and address. This is first truly international gathering of disciples. He welcomed them to Mayapur, acknowledging that on the day Bhaktivinoda Thakur's prediction had come true. The devotee shouted, Jaya, Jaya, Srila Prabhupada. Oh, for that day when the fortunate English, French, Russian, German, and American people will take up banners, mridangas, and kartals and raise kirtana through their streets and towns when that day will come. So this was the prediction of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, and Prabhupada was seeing these 400 devotees from all over the world actually. And this tradition is still continuing. Every Gaur Purnima time, Prabhupada would come. There will be GBC meeting. You can see everything in this episode, whatever happening, the tradition continued later. Whatever Prabhupada had said, and he personally managed the GBC meeting, how to conduct it, how to make resolution, everything Prabhupada taught, and the same tradition is continuing. So in the Prabhupada always think that he is the servant of his guru, but devotees from the Chaitanya Charitamrita, this is the time the Chaitanya Charitam was also released, and Satsur Goswami Maharaj quotes, even though Prabhupada thinks himself as a servant of the previous Acharya's instrument, but the devotee sees he is the personification of Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda's mercy. The devotees were very happy to together in the Dham. Those with experience of India like Jayapatka Maharaj and his Achyutananda Swami led the group of devotees on parikrama. So this parikrama is still continuing for many, many years during Gaur Purnima. I also had attended during Kartik months. There is another Navamandal Parikrama happens. This is purifying, coming to the Dham and doing this Parikrama, which Bhaktivinoda Thakur wanted it. And originally, it was Lord Nityananda taking Jiva Goswami around this holy places. So this is the coming in the Parampara, which Prabhupada wanted all of us to take Parikrama of these holy places. This visit to Mayapur would constitute the first half of the devotees' Indian pilgrimage. After 10 days, they would all go to Vrindavan. So the 10 days they come Gaur Purnima, then they go to Vrindavan. This is the mood of Vrindavan, in Mayapur. And this is the explanation why one should come to Dham, how one should get benefit from the Dham. Dham visit is to purify and renew for more active preaching. So those whose intelligence has come, understand this eternal associate of Vrindavan Dhamma are non-different from those Navadip. Prabhupada is explaining Navadip Dham is non-different from the Vrindavan Dham. Those associates have come here in Navadip to participate in the Sankirtan Leela. Such a fortunate person perceived the holy Dham as an object of service because their transcendental eyes have been opened by the mercy of the eternal perfect associate of Navadip Dham. Therefore, those who are enthusiastic realize the touchstone of the holy Dham of Navadipa through their transcendental eyes. Thereafter, they reside in the holy Dham of Navadipa, which they know to be non-different from Vrindavan and serve in their eternally perfected spiritual bodies. So this Navadip Dham is a holy place, not different from Vrindavan, and people come here to purify, regenerate. So here Prabhupada gives, Satsuru Gop Maharaj writes the mood of the devotees here in the left hand side. Almost all the devotees assembled in Mayapur preached in areas of the world where the modes of ignorance and passion predominated. We also stay in Bangalore. There are a lot of while a lot of preaching, we have to meet with a lot of people in the office, deal with various other mundane people, our conscience goes down. Daily, they had to mix with materialistic people, and it was inevitable that they could become worn down. This pilgrimage, therefore, was a chance for purification. So all these devotees come to Dham for purifying. Although they were not advanced in the birth or knowledge of Sanskrit Vedas, Prabhupada had accepted them and their certification as the devotees. They were bona fide candidates for understanding the meaning of Dharma. They would become refreshed by bathing in the Ganges in Mayapur and Yamuna in Vrindavan, and they would return to their respective centers through the world, purifying, renewed for more active preaching. So the visit, the purpose of visit, taking advantage of Dham is to purify, recharge your batteries, go back rigorously, preach. So our karma stand should be preaching wherever required to follow conditions, so wherever we stay. But we can come and take the association of the devotees, Vaishnava sadhus, holy place Dham association, then go back and preach rigorously. So this is the another tradition I was talking about, the GBC, how Prabhupada personally conducted GBC. And he said simply people should not talk. One person should propose, and other people has to object or they argue. Then they take minutes saying this resolution is passed or not. He showed them how to conduct it, and he was happy. Some people proposing the proposal, then somebody is really arguing it against it for the sake of growing this mission. It is not I'm against somebody. Prabhupada liked that mood, and he said chalk out plan for the year. You come back next year and review what is that you could able to attend it. He doesn't like Prabhupada did not like the long prolonged meeting just talking. He want to be very objective, point to point, make a resolution, document it, review, come in the next meeting and go as a minutes of the meeting. Prabhupada's happiness in the Mayapur was increased many times by the large gathering of his international family. He wanted this Mayapur for the devotees. Prabhupada even thought that if possible, all the devotees should stay here permanently. That's why we see Mayapur community is now 7,000. I've been told 7,000 people live in Mayapur currently from all over the world. They settled here. This is the vision of Acharya. Simply go on chanting, although he had admitted that it was not practical in terms of world preaching, he derived great satisfaction from sitting in his room above the temple hall and hearing the constant kirtans. Bhaktivinoda Thakur said, he remarked, there is nothing value in the 14 worlds except chanting of the holy name. So Prabhupada was pleased, he was extremely pleased to see this Dham Mayapur and his devotees. So that's all I had to cover in these two particular episodes, and the remaining episodes we can do it next session of how devotees were struggling and Prabhupada, how he was advising, helping them to finish the construction of Vrindavan temple.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, thank you very much for your enthusiastic narration, highlighting how Srila Prabhupada and his disciples have put in so much of effort in building the temples that they envision for future, and also highlighting how to see the dham and how to, what purposes dhams exist, and how we can go there and purify ourselves for renewed preaching. Devotees can unmute themselves to share any reflections, or if they have any questions, please ask Prabhuji directly.
And if we have a little time, I'll show you
Yes,
the
we have time.
old Vrindavan inauguration, basically Srubi Maharaj sharing his experience. Sorry, Srubi Prabhu. We can see a clip of 2-3
Sure.
minutes. But yeah, I'm open up now for any reflections. Okay, let me open that video. I don't know. Any comments, Prabhu? Any reflections anybody wants to?
Yeah, devotees can share any reflections or any questions.
If not, we can end the session.
Yes, yes, Prabhuji. Thank you again for your time, Prabhuji.
I could able to open the video. Let me reshare it. With this video, we can end.
Sure.
Let me know if you are able to view this screen, the video.
Right now, I'm just seeing the yes, I can see your Chrome browser.
The Vrindavan project was actually the very first real temple in ISKCON. This established Prabhupada so much in Vrindavan. I think he felt very good about that. Because actually Bombay was started earlier, but it was stopped because of the court cases. And I think at that time he was trying to get Bombay first. And then everything was blocked there. And Mayapur was a long-term project. It wasn't so urgent. And then Vrindavan became priority. So it only took about 2 years to build Vrindavan. Less than 2 years. Most ashrams and temples, they went very slow. When money came there, they would build something. And ours went very fast, very quickly done. And that was the same in Bombay, actually. Of course, Vrindavan had beautiful buildings, very classic buildings, but the standards were not very high in most of them. They were sort of run down a little bit. They were dark inside, and they didn't have much life, actually. And then this one was just so clean and fresh and lively, and there was just, everything was beautiful in there. And that's what people felt also when they would come to the temple. It sort of woke up Vrindavan.
There was a parade, quite an elaborate procession through the streets of Vrindavan. There was an elephant, there was a Shania band, and all the devotees doing kirtan. It was quite a commotion with all of this procession going through. Prabhupada seemed to be very beaming and happy. He was walking at the head of the procession, and which, now that I think of it, must have been quite funny for people who knew him from before. And here he is.
So we will see more of these clips. The temple Vrindavan, you can see how actually this Ravi Prabhu is, even though architect, he never had a construction experience, but Prabhupada put him on Vrindavan. He know temple architecture is done Bombay project, but this kind of carving and a lot of things, details needs to become in Vrindavan. It is something new to him as well. So there is a team who is very new. Gurudas was not good at managing accounting, and there are only handful of people. With that, 2 years, something like constructing a temple like Vrindavan, it's only Acharya can do, like Srila Prabhupada. So we will see more of that experience. That's all I have to say.
Yeah, Haribol Prabhu. It is just, I just came back from Vrindavan. I can see the temple and I saw the things. It is so, I can't express my feelings. It's so wonderful. And the way you explain, we are just sitting down and watching what's happening. Amazing, Prabhu, the way you tell. We pray for you to continue more and more teaching so we are benefited. And I thank Narhari Chaitanya Prabhu and the team. And we have wonderful, let's say, moons in our temple. Hare Krishna Prabhu. Dandavat Pranam.
So we'll end with Vaishnava.
Yes, Prabhuji. Vancha kalpa. The Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna. Dear devotees, will conclude today and we'll meet again tomorrow. Hare